everyone, I hope that you all had a great weekend and that you're all having a great day so far. So today for math, we are going to be starting on page 297, and this is lesson 8-7. So we're going to start off by talking about parallel lines. So here it says, the lines or line segments in these pairs are parallel. So if we look at each of these, we can see some similarities. One is that for all of these pairs, these lines are the same distance apart. Another thing that we can see is that these lines do not cross each other. You can see that these lines would never cross each other. So one thing we know about lines is that they go on forever. But if we were to extend these, we would see that they would just keep on going, but they would not cross each other. Same thing with this one. If we were to extend these, you would see that they would just keep going, but they would never cross each other. So what do you think it means for two lines to be parallel? We can write two lines are parallel if they are the same distance apart and if they never cross each other. So in order for lines to be parallel, they must be the same distance apart and never cross each other. So when we look at this one, we can see that this is not parallel because it doesn't look like these are crossing, but since this is a line, if we were to extend it, we would see that they would actually cross over each other. Additionally, we can see that these are not the same distance apart. And for these two, we can see that they are crossing right here, so these are not parallel. And then for this one, it'd be the same thing. If we were to extend it, we would see that they would cross over each other. To draw and label a pair of parallel lines. So if we want to draw and label a pair of parallel lines, we need to make sure that they are the same distance apart so that they will not cross. And if we wanted to name these, we could say A, B, and then we can say C, D. So now we can say that line AB is parallel to CD. For number 3, draw and label a figure with one pair of parallel line segments. So one figure that has one pair of parallel line segments is a trapezoid. So if we were to draw a trapezoid, we can see that this has one pair of parallel line segments, which are these two pairs right here. We can see that these are the same distance apart and that they would not cross each other, while these two, if we extended them, they would cross each other. So if we were to label this, we could say E, F, G, and H. And now I could say EF is parallel to GH. Now we can move on to page 298. So we're going to talk about perpendicular lines. So the lines or line segments in these pairs are perpendicular. So if we look at this one here, we can see that when these two lines cross, they form 4 square corners or 4 right angles, because really this is a right angle. All 4 of these are. Same thing with this one. When these cross, this is forming 2 square corners or 2 right angles. For this one, when these cross, you can see this has a right angle. And then for this one again, you can see that it forms 4 square corners, or right angles. So for this one, it says the lines or line segments in these pairs are not perpendicular. So when we look here, we can see that they do not have square corners, or they're not even equal. So you can see that these aren't the same size. Again, for this one, it's the same thing. You can see that they are not forming for square corners. So for all of these, they're not perpendicular because they need to form square corners, which are right angles. So what do you think it means for two lines to be perpendicular? So we can write the lines are perpendicular if they cross or meet to form square corners. And these corners, sorry, I'm running out of room. These corners are right angles. So just to review that, the lines are perpendicular if they cross or meet to form square corners. These corners are right angles. So again, when we look at all of these, we can see that when these crossed, they formed square corners. Here, when these two lines met, it formed one right angle. Here, this formed two right angles, and then here we can see four. So now for number 5, it says draw and label a pair of perpendicular lines. So if we were to draw a pair of perpendicular lines, we could do this many ways, but for an example, okay, so here, these lines are meeting right here. And we can see that when they meet, they're going to form 4 square corners or 4 right angles. So these two lines are perpendicular because when they meet, they're forming these right angles right here. So when we look at number 6, it says draw and label a figure with one pair of perpendicular line segments. So if we want to draw a figure with one pair of perpendicular line segments, a figure we could draw is a right triangle. So if we were to draw a right triangle, we could see that this would have one pair of perpendicular line segments because right here, when they cross, they're forming a right angle. We can see that here it's not perpendicular, and then here it's not perpendicular, but when they cross here, they're forming this square right here, this right angle, which makes it perpendicular. So if we wanted to name this, we could say X, Y, and Z. And we could say that, so XY is perpendicular to YZ. So XY is perpendicular to YZ. And I'm sorry, really quick, let's back up to number 5 just so we can label this. So if we wanted to label this, we could say M, N, P, and Q. And we would say that MN, so line MN, is perpendicular to line PQ. So we have MN is perpendicular to PQ, and here we have XY is perpendicular to YZ because these lines are crossing to form square corners or right angles. So once you are all done with this page on Google Classroom, there is an assignment posted for you to complete page 299 and page 300. So it'll be just like last week where you can type your answers right in on the page just like this. All right, thank you everyone. Have a great day.